He's open. No flags are down. Touchdown.
He runs to the 50. He runs to the 40. The guy is drunk, but there he goes.
7:46.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the 10th inning with Nick Mattos.
Oh, put me in cold. I'm ready to play today. Put me in cold. I'm ready to play today. Look at me. I can be center field.
Welcome to the 10th inning. I'm Nick Mattos, along with David Perkins. We're in the Lethal Weapon 2 office here. David's going to work the podcast. And joining me is my co-host on Overtime with Nick and Bob, Bob Seymour. Overtime with Nick and Bob airs Sunday afternoons on KSRO in Sonoma from 4 to 6 p.m. Hey, Bob, thanks for joining me today.
No problem at all, bro. Always glad to talk about sports with you.
Well, today I'd like to talk about the AFC, NFC Conference Football Championships that are going to be played this Sunday at 12 noon. We've got the Atlanta Falcons hosting the Green Bay Packers. And later in the afternoon, 3:30, 3:40 start time, we've got the New England Patriots hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers. And last week we had some very exciting games. And let's talk a little bit about the route to the conference championship games. The Green Bay Packers won the North Division. They hosted the New York Giants in the first round and defeated the New York Giants 38-13. Last week they played the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas. Dallas was the number 1 seed. Green Bay went there and defeated Dallas 34-31 in a very exciting game that ended on the last play of the game, a field goal. And that was pretty cool, Bob, where they had 3 field goals of over 50 yards in the last minute and 38 seconds of the game. So we finally got some exciting games there, Bob.
Both of those games were outstanding, I thought. I mean, of course, the Dallas game started a little bit slow. Green Bay was able to get on, I think it was 21-3 at one point. But Dallas rallied, came back, actually tied the game, 2-point conversion. And, yeah, like you're saying, to see 3 field goals, over 50 yards in the last minute of play was pretty remarkable. And then, of course, Aaron Rodgers just weaved spinning his magic. But I was impressed by Dallas. I think it would have been easy to, especially with rookies and a young team, it would have been easy to throw in the towel at 21-3. But they battled all the way back. I mean, they could have won the game as well. I mean, if that game goes to overtime, who knows what happens?
Yeah, that's a great point there. They had momentum. They were down 15 points at one point in the second half, and it would have been the biggest comeback since Dallas Cowboys came back and defeated the San Francisco 49ers in the, I think it was, 1993 or something, Bob, that one game?
Yeah, something early in the 90s, yeah.
Yeah, so, and anyway, the Atlanta Falcons, they were the number 2 seed there. Dallas was the number 1 seed. Atlanta Falcons, the number 2 seed. They were the winners of the NFC South Division. They had a bye the first round, and last week they defeated the Seattle Seahawks in Atlanta 36-20. Atlanta's offense right now is really they're scoring a lot of points. They were the number 1 offense in the NFC, and they've just been scoring a lot of points lately, Bob. I've been impressed with their passing a game. They're well balanced. They're running the football. And Matt Ryan right now seems to be peaking at the right time.
Oh, no question about it. I mean, they lead the league in scoring at 33.8 points per game. So, yeah, and as you're talking about Matt Ryan, Devontae Adams, of course, Tevin Coleman, the running game is really kind of basically made the passing game that much more lethal with Julio Jones and Mohamed Sanu on the outside. And the kid, the tight end, Titolio, or how you pronounce his name. No, Matt Ryan. I mean, I think we saw that against the Legion of Boom. Matt Ryan pretty much had his way with those boys. I mean, granted, no Earl Thomas, but still, Sherman was still back there. Cam Chancellor was still back there. Snead was still back there. They still had Bobby Ingram. They still had KJ Lang. So they had their defense out there, and Matt Ryan, made it look silly a couple times.
Yeah,
I mean, a 99-yard drive. They put them at the 1-yard line. They couldn't stop them. They went 99 yards. So that pretty much to me was the statement of the game, to go 99 yards against that defense was pretty outstanding.
Yeah, the Legion of Boom wasn't quite the same after they lost their safety there. And, speaking on that 99-yard drive, it's amazing that Atlanta has driven over 90 yards 11 times this year. No other team in the NFL's even done it 6 times. And those are sustained drives. When you go over 90 yards, those are long plays usually, long drives that eat up a lot of clock. And right now, they just have a really good balance. I mentioned they were second in offense in the NFC behind the New Orleans Saints. They rush for an average of 120 yards per game, and they're passing close to 300 yards a game. And their wide receiver, Julio Jones, right now could be the best receiver in football. And Julio's got a little problem right now with turf toe, and he re-aggravated it last week in the game against the Seahawks. Everything looks like he's going to be a go for the game. He's not going to practice, but he will play in the game. And their field goal kicker, Bob, is very good too. There's not a lot of talk about Matt Bryant, and Matt Bryant was 34 for 37 this year on field goals, 56 for 57 on PATs, and we know now that the PAT is not a given point like it used to be, Bob. We've seen many of them this year missed by teams, and they just have a very good balanced offense. I would say this though, Bob, their offense is well balanced. I question their defense though. Do you?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think they rated 27th in overall defense. I think they're giving up almost 25 and a half points per game. That's going to be further accelerated by the fact that they lost one of their outstanding pass rushers, a kid named Adrian Claiborne, who was basically in the game. Atlanta and Green Bay played on October the 30th. Atlanta won 33-32. In that game, Adrian Claiborne had 2 sacks. So he was probably their second leading pass rusher behind Vic Beasley, although they do have Dwight Freeney, they do have Jonathan Babineau, those cagey veterans. But this is a good young kid that tore his bicep in the first half in the game against Seattle. That they may feel the loss of Adrian Claiborne in their pass rush, because I mean, quite frankly, their pass rush wasn't that good before. To lose a kid like that could play it could be a factor, I believe.
Yeah, well, they did do a much better job in the second half of the season of getting some pressure on the quarterback, and they did a better job this year overall. Their new coach Dan Quinn did a good job of putting some defensive players out there that have some talent and got them in positions to do a good job. But I believe their defense is their Achilles heel, and I think that's what we're going to have to watch for in this game against the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers is red hot right now, and their 25th ranked defense here for Atlanta, they give up near 275 yards a game passing, and going up against Aaron Rodgers and that passing defense against Green Bay, this is going to be a high-scoring game. You mentioned the first game was 33-32. I expect this game to possibly score more points than that. And I know a lot of people would say, geez, you know what, that could be the highest scoring game ever in an NFC Conference Championship game, and I believe it will be. I just think with the weather in Atlanta, it's the last game of that stadium there, Bob. They're going to blow up that stadium there. They're going to move to the, I think it's called the Mercedes Dome or something next year.
Mercedes-Benz Dome, yeah, it's right next door, right? Correct.
Yeah, it's going to be just live there. It's going to be electric, and the way that the Atlanta Falcons defense, they're just suspect to me. I look for Green Bay to make this a very high-scoring, interesting game, and the first time they played, Bob, it was 33-32. Atlanta ended up getting the victory, but it took a last-second touchdown, I believe. Mohamed Sanu caught a touchdown pass for Atlanta with 31 seconds left in that game. It was an 11-yard TD pass. So, I'm looking for another exciting game like this. I really am. And I think this is going to be an excellent game to view for excitement and passing. And just, sometimes when you don't have good defense, Bob, it opens it up for a pretty fun game to watch. I'm looking forward to this game.
Well, the Packers are 31st in defense, too. They're giving up, and they're 21st in scoring. They're giving up 24 points a game. Additionally, their safety, Morgan Burnett, has a bad hamstring. He may be out this week. Jordy Nelson is back at practice, so Devontae Adams was hurt in the last part of the game against the Cowboys. He was both their tackles are have been limited in practice this week. So Green Bay's facing a few injuries too, particularly on the defensive side of the football. So like you said, it could be 50-49. There's no question about that. One of the intangibles, though, to me is Aaron Rodgers. Matt Ryan is playing very well. I just think, Aaron Rodgers, the way that he's playing right now, based on his past performance, he already has a ring. Basically, he brought that team back from at one time they were 4-6, okay, and now they're playing for the NFC Championship. So, and I think the majority of that goes to Aaron Rodgers and the coach McCarthy, but I just think that's the intangible to me is Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, Bob, he's thrown 40 touchdown passes this season and during the regular season with only 7 interceptions. He did throw an interception last week in the playoff game against Dallas. It broke a long string for him of games without throwing an interception. But he's at the top of his game right now. And, if you were going to ask me, I'll ask you, if you were going to take one quarterback of the two, who would you take right now? Would it be Aaron Rodgers or Matt Ryan?
Oh, there's no question it'd be Aaron Rodgers.
I would agree with you. I would take Aaron Rodgers. But, the problem for Aaron Rodgers is he's lost his wide receiver, Jordy Nelson. Jordy got injured there the other game against New York Giants. I don't think he's going to be back for this game. They have overcome it. They've looked good their last 2 games without Jordy, but they had quite a chemistry, those two. And I believe in a game like this that's just a toss-up game, that may just be the intangible that Atlanta has to be able to get over on Green Bay. And you mentioned Green Bay's defense. It's not very good. It ranks a little bit higher than Atlanta's defense. They rank 22 in the NFL, I believe, Bob. They're
both in the bottom 20. So
it's going to be a shootout, and I'm excited about that, and I love that, to tell you the truth. I'm actually kind of sick of the defenses ruling the NFL, AFC, NFC championship games, and we've heard that for a long time. Defenses win championships. I'd like to see an offensive team win the championship. I really do. I think that's where the game is gone now. People want to see points scored, and this should be a real good shootout. I'm looking forward to it. Green Bay is really peaking at the right time too, Bob. They've won 7 straight games now into the regular season. They've won 2 here in the playoffs. They're peaking at the right time. That's the key to this, peaking at the right time. And Atlanta's coming in there. They're doing a pretty good job, but I don't know if they're as hot as Green Bay right now. What do you think? Who do you like in this game, Bob?
I think I'm going to go out on a big limb and say it's going to be Green Bay, and I think they're probably going to score. I'm going to say in the 37 to 38 range of points.
Yeah, I like the point.
So I'm going to say 38-35, something like that.
Yeah, I like the points, Bob, but I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go with Atlanta scoring 37, 38 points. I'm looking at Atlanta 37, Green Bay 34. I like that score. Now, a lot of people, you know what? We've seen this happen before. It could come out there in the first half. Both teams are being dominated by defense. They're making mistakes. I don't see that in this game, though. I really do. I think these teams are going to come out. They're going to be sharp. The offenses are going to control the game. And it's going to be basically the last team with the football is going to win the game. But I think it's going to be Atlanta. I like the intangibles here. The last game of the season at their stadium. Atlanta hasn't been in the playoffs since 2012. Matt Ryan really has been playing his best. He's never gotten to the Super Bowl. We know Aaron Rodgers has won one, and he's a fine quarterback. We both mentioned, Bob, if you're going to just match up Aaron Rodgers against Matt Ryan, it's going to be Aaron Rodgers. But let's throw all the other intangibles in here for Atlanta, and I like Atlanta to win this game in a close, well-fought, high-scoring game. But we'll wait and see. David Perkins, you got any idea on what you want to make old D Perks here? You got an idea who you want to win, David? David's picking the Green Bay Packers also. Okay.
Well, he's a smart guy.
Yeah, well, he looks smart, okay, but yeah, no, he is smart. Okay, very good. It's great to be here in his crib. Let me tell you, the lethal weapon, too.
That's our producer, man. He went with the guy he knows. He went with the PI, baby.
He went with the P of I, the plethora of information. All right, Bob. Well, let's talk a little bit then about the AFC game. That's going to be a heck of a battle. I believe these are the two best teams, Bob. Last week, Pittsburgh defeated Kansas City. They went into the red zone there several times. Pittsburgh ended up with 6 field goals in the game, Bob. I mean, the game could have been much worse. Ended up defeating Kansas City 18-16. Pittsburgh was winner of the AFC North division. They defeated Miami Dolphins in Pittsburgh in the first round of the playoffs 30-12. And then last week they traveled to Kansas City Chiefs and defeated the Chiefs 18-16, getting 6 field goals of 3 points apiece for the 18 points. But and in that game, Bob, I'll tell you this. In that game, I thought Kansas City had a good opportunity to win the game, but again, dropped passes. They dropped some key passes in that game that really hurt the Chiefs, and the better team won, though, Bob. Pittsburgh was definitely the better team, in my opinion.
Oh, I don't think there's any question about it, and you're right about it. I mean, Travis Kelce, Pro Bowl player, he had 2 big drops in that game. But then he was quick to criticize the referees when they made a call that basically was the right call. I mean, the dude held him. So, Travis Kelce didn't play very well. They had some big drops in that game. And think about it, they went into the end zone twice. Pittsburgh couldn't do that. So, but I think we talked about this when we kind of previewed that game. I thought the 3 Bs would be big. And the first one, Le'Veon Bell was huge, 170 yards rushing after 167 yards a week before. Antonio Brown got open basically when he needed to. I mean, they were pretty much able. I mean, they have a great secondary: Eric Berry, Marcus Peters. But I mean, he got open for that huge third down play to keep the clock going late in the game. And he snuck behind him one other time. So he has the ability to get open when necessary, and Big Ben has the ability to find him. So I think. I mean, I like Pittsburgh on offense. And their defense came to play pretty well last week as well. I mean, they relied on a little bit on the old man James Harrison to make some big plays for him. They got some good young corners. They got some good young linebackers. They seem to drop the linebacker every year. So I like the way the direction that Pittsburgh's going. But you're talking about Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. The same thing that you could almost make the same comparison that we just made in the previous game. Matt Ryan or Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady or Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, you've got these are the 4 really great quarterbacks, Bob. In this, we'll talk about this after we preview this game. But could this be the best 4 quarterbacks ever in the conference championships? I mean, I know there's one other one in 1993, I believe it was, where the 49ers were playing Dallas. So you had Steve Young versus Troy Aikman. And the AFC championship was between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. So you had, and at that time, Joe Montana was the quarterback for Kansas City going against Jim Kelly. So, and all 4 of those quarterbacks are in the Hall of Fame. Now you look at the 4.
Right, and all four of those quarterbacks, all the quarterbacks with the exception of Jim Kelly, have won a Super Bowl. So. Yeah,
and now you look at the 4 here that we got in this game, Bob. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers are going to be in the Hall of Fame. And I think Big Ben he's probably got the resume for it. I don't know if Matt Ryan right at this point has the resume for it, but these 4 quarterbacks, Bob, have had outstanding since 2008, Bob. These 4 quarterbacks are pretty much unbelievable. I mean, they have gotten Tom Brady's won 97 games since 2008. That's the most. Second is is Aaron Rodgers with 90 wins. Third is Matt Ryan with 85 wins. And Ben Roethlisberger is tied for 4th with Drew Brees for 84 wins. These are the top winning quarterbacks since 2008. I mean, this is a pretty good set of quarterbacks we've got in both these games. I mean, and that's what, Bob, you mention this all the time, and I love this, and I think it's 100% true. The NFL is a quarterback-driven league. If you don't have a good quarterback, you're not going to get very far, especially in the playoffs. I mean, the last time I remember a quarterback that wasn't a real top one was Trent Dilfer, and that was the defense with the Ravens that was by far the best defense in the NFL that year. But, you mention it all the time, Bob, and I think anybody that follows the NFL understands that you have to have a quality quarterback. And let's talk a
Well,
little.
and the only thing missing from Matt Ryan's resume would be a Super Bowl win. So I think to complete his resume, he needs to do that. You talked about he's gotten 85 wins since 2008. That all looks good, but until Ben's got 2 rings, Brady's got 4, I believe, and Aaron Rodgers has 1. So Matt Ryan's the only buddy that doesn't have one. So he needs to fill out his resume with that for sure.
Well,
I don't think it's going to be there. I'm not thinking it's going to be this year, though, my friend.
Well, Bob, I beg to differ, and we're going to talk about that at the end, though, because I do like the Falcons to get to the Super Bowl, so that's going to give them a 50% chance if they're in it. But let's talk about the team that I think everybody feels is the favorite to win the Super Bowl, and that's the New England Patriots. The Patriots had the best record in the AFC this year, the 14 wins and 2 losses, and Tom Brady's 39 years old, hasn't dropped off very much. It's amazing how Tom Brady is just, maybe the 4 games at the beginning of the season that he missed was actually, did him some good. It saved him.
I would agree with that 100%. He's got fresh legs at the end of the season. He's only played 12. Everybody else is in their 15th or 16th, 17th, 18th game. He's only played 16 I think those 4 weeks off were good for him.
Yeah.
In terms of where he's at right now in terms of his health. And just as, his physically, I think it was good for him.
Well, I'll tell you this, Bob. Last week when they played the Houston Texans, the Texans definitely had a game plan, and that game plan was to get Tom Brady out of that game. And they had some questionable hits on Tom Brady that were just borderline late. New England defeated the Texans 34-16 in that round, but there was some questionable hits on Tom Brady, and I was surprised, Bob. He got up after some of those hits because a lot of those hits, they were pretty hard. He got sacked a couple of times and he just released the ball. And once he released it, he got put to the ground. He only complained a couple of times, but I think that was definitely the game plan for the Texans was if we can get Tom Brady out of the game, we may have an opportunity to defeat New England. Now, they never could, and he seems to be fine health. I haven't heard anything about his health having any issues, so he should go into this game 100%, and this is going to be another heck of a game. I look for this game to also be high-scoring. I don't believe it'll be as high-scoring as the game between the Falcons and the Packers, but I still think this might be the first 1-30 here on this game, Bob.
The first 1-30?
Well, yeah. I mean, you don't think it'll take that many points to win this game?
You know what? I don't know. I think I like both the defenses a little bit more in this game. I think the defense, particularly Pittsburgh's defense, is gonna. They got some good players on, and I think that I can't. Matt Patricia is way underrated as a defensive coordinator. He seems to be able to have the right call on the right all the time. So I think Matt Patricia is going to be kind of a little intangible in there too. He seems to have that defense playing well, no matter who's in there. I mean, they had an All-Pro linebacker in Jamie Collins that they traded to Cleveland during the season just because. Well, the reason was because he didn't want to sign a long-term. He didn't want to sign a long-term contract. But the point is this: in their scheme, they're able to just plug people in and get success. So I think that I expect it to be a little bit more of a defensive battle than the other game.
Yeah, Bob, the defenses are rated much higher for both these teams. For the defense for New England, I believe was 8th in the NFL, and the Steelers ranked it looks like 12th in the NFL on defense. So their defenses are much better than the Green Bay Packers and the Atlanta Falcons. There's no question about that. And I think what the key is going to be is the running game for right now for Pittsburgh behind Le'Veon Bell is right now that's what's shining to me in the playoffs. It doesn't seem like Ben is that sharp. Ben Roethlisberger is not that sharp as we've seen Ben in the past, but they're not relying on Ben. Le'Veon Bell right now is running the ball at a very, very productive rate. And it's funny, Bob, when you watch him, and any of the fans watch him, he's got his own technique out there. He just kind of gets the football, kind of stutter steps, maybe skips a little bit, waits for the hole, as his big linemen cover up the defensive linemen, and then he just jolts right through there. And it's been very effective. Have you seen any running back with this technique, Bob? Because I can't think of any.
You know what? The only guy I can think about that might be a little bit like that was Barry Sanders, and they both have the great ability to put their foot in the ground and go. You know, like you're saying, Le'Veon Bell kind of chop steps. He kind of sees where the out hole is. Once he puts his foot in the ground, he can go, and he can go straight ahead too. He's a very good power runner in terms of, you know, he's got some great rack. I think he's over 4 yards of carry with yards after contact. So no, Le'Veon Bell's the whole story, and I've been talking about Le'Veon Bell for the last 3 weeks in the playoffs. I think he's going to be one of the intangibles in Pittsburgh's offense, because, like you're saying, Big Ben has the ability to extend plays, but if they can get late, 167 yards against Miami, 170 yards last week against that, you know, a good Kansas City defense that was geared to stop them. So I think Le'Veon Bell is the kind of the X factor in this game. If Le'Veon Bell is able to consistently run for yardage, it could turn in the favor of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think that is going to be possibly the difference in the game will be the running game for the Steelers. And, you know, a couple of concerns I have about the Steelers offense. I like their running game, but their red zone offense has been really, really suspect. And obviously we mentioned in last week's game against the Chiefs, they had to settle for 6 field goals. I mean, I don't think everyone was in the red zone, but they did penetrate the red zone several times. And this year, they were ranked 12th in the NFL in red zone efficiency with a 60% efficiency. And that's obviously gone down in the playoffs because Big Ben has only thrown 2 touchdown passes and he's thrown 3 interceptions so far in the 2 playoff games. So if they don't do better in the red zone, and it's kind of funny, Bob, I'm not sure why they're not running the ball down there in the red zone a little bit more. I kind of question their play calls a little bit against the Chiefs down there, but their place kicker right now, Chris Boswell, is very accurate. And obviously the 6 field goals against the Chiefs, that set an NFL record. And he also had 6 field goals earlier in the season against the Cincinnati Bengals on December 18th. So he's very accurate. His leg is not a big leg. It's like we've seen some kickers that can kick him 55, 60 yards, but he's very accurate. And that may be the difference right there. If Pittsburgh doesn't score some touchdowns in the red zone against New England, we know New England's offense is pretty good, and Tom Brady's very good down in the red zone, and that may be right there what the fans and listeners should look for. How is Pittsburgh doing in the red zone when they get in there? Are they settling for 3s, or are they going to come up with 6 points? And, you know, I'm a guy, Bob, and you know this about me. I like to play the odds, okay? And, you know, once in a while I like to throw $1 or $2 down on a ball game. But in this game right here, especially with last week's poor performance by Pittsburgh in the red zone, I look for them to do better just because of the odds, Bob, okay? You get down there in the red zone. You didn't have success last week. I expect them to be much more efficient this week in the red zone for a couple of reasons. One, odds, okay? You just can't seem to – they're 60% efficiency, and so if they were 0 for 6 last week, you know those odds are going to turn around. But also I'm sure they're going to take a deeper look at the play calls and what they did down in the red zone, and I think they're going to be more efficient this week, Bob.
Well, I would agree with the play calling in the red zone. I don't know why they don't run them. You know, 3 or 4 times they tried to throw balls, and we all know, you know, the defenses have a compressed field when the red. I mean, you only have to defend 10 yards behind the goal line, so you don't have to worry about somebody going running past you. You can play the shorter zones. You can play tighter zones. Typically, they go to 5 or 6 DBs in a situation like that. So why not run Le'Veon Bell in there? I would agree with you. I don't know why Pittsburgh wasn't running the football more in the goal line situation, and I look for them to do a little bit more of that this week as well, because, as you said, their success last week in the red zone was pretty limited.
Yeah,
actually non-existent. So
yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about the Patriots. Obviously, Bob, they're the favorite to win the Super Bowl. They have been for a while. This is their 6th consecutive AFC Championship appearance. Coach, I believe Tom Brady and Bill Belichick are the the finest quarterback and coach in NFL history. I really like Tom Brady. He seems to be able to rise to the occasion for the big game. I mean, he always does. Very rarely does Tom Brady have a bad game in a big game. So I look for him to do a good job. The question I have for New England is about their running game. Now, last week they had the return of Dion Lewis. LeGarrette Blount was not doing very much. I guess he was sick. He didn't play very much in the game. They went to the little speedy Dion Lewis, set an NFL record. I mean, it was fun to watch Dion. Bobby caught a touchdown pass, ran one in for a touchdown, and he returned to kickoff. No back had ever done that before, so that was pretty cool. But I believe they're going to need LeGarrette Blount back in the lineup, and they're going to need to control the football against Pittsburgh in this game. And my question is whether or not they can run the football against Pittsburgh's defense, because like you mentioned, Bob, they are doing much better. In the last 6 or 7 games, they're getting pressure on the quarterback. I don't know what Harrison, that defensive end, has done, Bob. I did hear something interesting that he spends $1,000 a day on different things to keep his body in shape. Did you hear that, Bob?
I heard he spends like almost $300,000 a year.
Yeah,
to,
that's amazing. Hey, I got to find out what he's doing. I don't know if I can afford it, but
I'm sure he does. I'm sure he probably does the oxygen chamber. He might even do the thing where you go into this deep freeze. I mean, it's like below zero, and it's supposed to be good for like post game. So it's like an ice bath, only you're completely surrounded in freezing air. That's like, I don't know. My daughter did it one time for a pitching arm, but there's a bunch of stuff like that, and he tries all of it. I'm sure he's going into the oxygen chamber. I'm sure he's going into the cryogenics chamber. I'm sure he's doing all of that. But you can't. I mean, if you got the money to spend and you cannot. The results are there. I mean, he played a great game last week.
Yeah.
He's 38 years old. He's playing like a 20-year-old. So.
Yeah, I think Bob, mentioned.
And it's his money.
Yeah, well, and he's got a lot of it. Okay, he's been around for a while and he's doing great. And you know what? We all know this. NFL football players have a short-lived life, and if you can extend it a couple of years and be productive, it's going to be productive in your pocketbook also. And whatever Harrison is doing, it's working, and his legs look fresh. I'm impressed with him because Pittsburgh had let him go a few years back. He went over to what team did he go to?
Cincinnati. Cincinnati.
He didn't do much there. He came back to the Bengals. He looks like he's rejuvenated. Whatever he's doing for his body, and I'm hoping it's all on the up and up. I'm sure he's getting tested for illegal steroids.
Sure, the PED tests are weekly, so he's not. Yeah, he's not doing that. That's why he's using the oxygen chamber and the rest of that crap. So.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It looks like everything is working well for him, and it's going to be important for him to get some pressure on Tom Brady. And like I mentioned, their defense has done a good job of getting pressure on the quarterback, especially the second half of the season here. That's why they're on an 8-game win streak. And you mentioned their defensive coordinator's done a fine job of mixing up their defensive secondary schemes and doing a good job. And, I look for Tom Brady and the Patriots to win this game, Bob, just because it's in New England. And I know you're going to say, what are you talking about? Well, Brady is 94-10 at home. They just seem to play so well there at the stadium. And the weather shouldn't be a factor. We saw Pittsburgh went last week to Kansas City. It was cold and rainy there. But I just think that home field advantage may be just enough of an edge for the New England Patriots to get back to the Super Bowl here for the 7th time in Tom Brady's career and give him an opportunity to win his 5th Super Bowl ring. And that would set up a great Super Bowl if you ask me. The Atlanta Falcons and the New England Patriots, I think that's who it's going to be, Bob. Who do you like in this game? Do you like the Patriots or do you like Pittsburgh to go there and knock off the Patriots?
You know what? It's hard for me to go against Brady. Like you said, I'm a guy that likes to throw a dollar around on a game every once in a while, and it's hard for me to go against Tom Brady. I like what Pittsburgh's doing. I think that they have a good plan in place, right? But I just don't know that they can get by Brady. If it was in Pittsburgh, it would be Pittsburgh. I'd be picking Pittsburgh. But I think as you point out, the intangible of New England at home, and one less game to play. I think I got to go. It'll be Aaron Rodgers against Tom Brady at Reliance Stadium on February the 5th.
Well, that would certainly be a great quarterback matchup, that's for sure, Bob. No doubt, two Hall of Famers. Brady is 16-3 at home in the playoffs in New England in Foxborough. D. Perk, who are you taking in that game? You going with the Patriots or are you going with the Pittsburgh Steelers? All right, D. Perk's going with the Patriots too. So it's unanimous here, Bob. We're all three going to take the Patriots. I think it's going to be a great game. And Bob, I'm telling you, I'm not going to be surprised if either of the teams can get 27 to 30 points. I think that's what it's going to take to win this game because the offenses are both very efficient. We didn't hardly mention too much about Antonio Brown. He's a fantastic receiver, probably going to be the best receiver in this game. I don't know. You
know what? I really like Edelman. Edelman's a great player. And Danny Amendola's coming back too now. Amendola, that's just another guy for Brady to throw to. And I also think we're going to see some. I think Marcellus Bennett will be heard from before that game is over as well. So I really like Edelman. Has the ability. He's not the burner that Antonio Brown is, but he has the ability to get open. And I look for Edelman to have a big game. I think Danny Amendola is ready to come back huge. And I think Marcellus Bennett will be a factor as well. So you're right about Antonio Brown, but I do like old Julian Edelman, old number 11.
Yeah, Bob, I think just what you just brought up, and I'm glad you brought that up, there is a plethora of receivers for the Patriots where basically the Patriots can kind of pretty much focus on Antonio Brown. If they take him out of the game, it's going to put a lot of pressure on the other receivers for the Steelers. And you mentioned the other Edelman and the receivers for
Danny Amendola, Marcellus Bennett.
And you forgot one that I really like, and that's the new kid Hogan.
Oh, yes, Chris Hogan. Yes, sir.
I really like him, Bob. I really like Chris Hogan. He got a little banged up in the game last week, but he's ready to go this week. Had a phone call with the Boston Bandit there in New England, Massachusetts, and the Bandit says Hogan's going to be fine. And he's a guy that's been stretching the field for them. You know, that's something that's really important. We know this. We've seen teams that don't have a receiver that can run downfield and stretch the defense a little bit, and Hogan's been doing a good job of that for the Patriots. So look for him to stretch the defense a little bit, opens it up underneath for Amendola and Bennett, the tight end, like you mentioned. So this should be a great game, but I just think there's too many weapons for New England. They're going to go in there, they're going to take care of business, and they're going to get back to the Super Bowl. Tom Brady's 39 years old. I don't know how many more attempts that he's going to get to the Super Bowl. This would be his 7th attempt there, Bob, and he's won four out of the 6. So
I was going to say I'll have one for the thumb. So
that's great, PFI. I love it. All right, Bob. Well, listen, thank you very much for joining us here on the 10th inning, Bob, and you can follow Bob and I on our Overtime Facebook page. Go on there. It's Overtime with Nick and Bob on Facebook page, and Susie Baldwin does a great job. Bob goes on there all the time, posts everything about all the sports, and I want to thank David Perkins here for letting us do this podcast in his Lethal Weapon office here, the Lethal Weapon 2. You can go on there, and adults only, though. We don't want the kids on that Lethal Weapon 2, right, Dave? It's adults only. And very funny, though. I really highly recommend anybody that wants to go on there and get a good laugh, go on that Lethal Weapon 2, and you'll get a good laugh from David Perkins and his posse there. So thanks again for joining us here on the 10th inning. We'll be back next week to preview the Super Bowl. And again, I want to thank my co-host, my funk soul brother, the P of I, Bob Seymour, for joining us here on the 10th inning.